morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wisdom Day with Dr. Anil Bajpai, COO of Prestige Education Foundation, Indore. We meet after a break, and we meet, but surely. What is it that we're going to talk about today? A lot of you are here for the first time after your protected life in schools. You're here to go on to a journey which is going to take you into the big bad world hereafter. Of course, it's exciting also. You'll make your careers, your lives, your futures. You've chosen to do some programs here. Many of you here are doing a bachelor's degree in analytics or any other subject. So let me think, what is it that we should discuss today? I'm going to tell you what is not taught in college. The college will teach you a lot of things. There is curriculum, there are programs, there are all kinds of subjects that you will need to understand. You will need to pass examination after examination. You'll need to do internships, you'll need to do a whole lot of practical work. But there are many things that you will need in the big bad world outside which are not taught at school. When I say school, it also means college. Let me tell you, you've been learning a lot of business communication. All right? And what is business communication? Business communication to you means how to speak and how to write, how to convey, how to send your message across. Is that all to business communication? No, it's not all. There are many other things. What are the other things? Negotiation. You're going to go out into the world and start to negotiate. Actually, you started negotiating the day you were born. You know that. You were negotiating with your mother. And very quickly you learned that if you howl, your mother gives you something. So you learned how to howl. That is business communication. You learned business communication when you were 1 day old. You cried and your mother fed you. And then a little while later you understood and she understood. Both of you were very, very clear with each other. So every time you cry, she feeds you. Now you had to do something new. So what did you do? You started throwing things around when you wanted something. You changed your behavior of your tantrums when you wanted something done. What was that? That was negotiation. And chances are that you won every of those negotiations. You made your parents agree to all your demands. You remember that? मुझे तो ये वाली पेंसिल चाहिए. आ जाएगी. Otherwise I will not go to school. All kinds of these are negotiation tricks. These are not taught in any school. These are not taught in any college. But this is what life teaches you. And this is what we are going to discuss the next few minutes over here. What is it that you need to learn from life which is not there in a curriculum of a school or a college? There are lots of schools now which have started to learn negotiation. What is negotiation? Negotiation is the art of arriving at a mutually, sometimes it is not so, but the art is to arrive at a mutually acceptable solution to a discussion or a problem which has a diverse viewpoint in two parties. Yes or no? How many of you are, what do they call that? Single and not single? Committed. Yeah. That's the word. How many of you? Raise your hands. Sab jhoot bolenge. Never mind. You don't need to raise your hand. I understand that all of you are going through this phase of negotiating. Do you realize? Whether it's your girlfriend or your boyfriend, you are entering into a contract. A contract that could be a lifelong contract. that could end in your becoming partners for the rest of your lives. So, do you enter into a contract without negotiating? Never happens. All right. So, what is the negotiation that you do? How will you go about trying to negotiate? And believe me, this is where you are learning negotiation with strangers. You've already learned negotiation with family people, with your familiar surroundings. You've learned negotiating with your parents and your brothers and sisters and all that. But here is a situation where you will negotiate with a stranger. And at your age, that stranger is that boy or girl who you are fond of, who you like. What are the negotiation points? Anybody? Mr. Dubey. What are the points of negotiation that you would consider in a relationship that you want to make for the rest of your life? Loyalty. All right. So here is a viewpoint. Somebody wants loyalty in return for what? But what is it in a relationship will you give for loyalty? You will give affection for loyalty, and he'll be merrily disloyal. So these are the factors that you have to consider when you're actually getting into a negotiation, into a relationship, into something for the future. All right. Okay, negotiation is one part. Now let me share with you something about what happens across the world when you negotiate in business. Our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has been going around the world and he has made a name for himself everywhere. What has he done? He has negotiated. And he has won the negotiations. He has won the heart of many leaders across the world. What did he do? He distributed vaccines free of cost. It was a small price to pay. For what? For getting reputation, for getting acceptance, for getting a whole lot of good things from the world. This virus that we have experienced in the last 2 years, 1.5 years, almost 2 years now, has created havoc around the world. But one country has stood out. And can you name that country? It's not a big surprise. India. Only China has stood out for wrong reasons. Is that Chinese virus? Forget it. India has stood out as the country that at the beginning of the pandemic, we did not have a mask. We used to import masks. We did not have ventilators. We were importing ventilators. Special flights were coming down with ventilators. We did not have oxygen. We were finding a shortage of oxygen and people were dying in hospitals. There were so many difficulties. And what did we do? We started producing. We are the world's largest producers of surgical masks today. We are the largest producers of ventilators in the world today. We are supplying vaccines to the entire world today. Why? Why? And how? Because one man did it. He negotiated with the people of India just like somebody had negotiated about 75, 80 years ago. And that gentleman's name was Subhash Chandra Bose. Have you heard of them? How many of you have heard of him? Very good. What did he say? What was his slogan? तो मुझे खून दो. So is that not a negotiation? ये अफेक्शन में लॉयल्टी मांग रहा है. अबे कुछ अच्छी चीज दो यार. खून दो ना. So remember that there is always between two people a contract that has to be negotiated, and there are considerations on either side. You will learn this in business law, but I'm talking about beyond business law. I'm talking about what your personal lives will achieve. So this is what Mr. Modi did. He negotiated with the country, and the country paid back. The country lived up to its request. The whole world was hunting for food. Did any one of us feel hungry and a shortage of wheat or rice during the last 2 years? We did not. How did that happen? Because the farmers of this country, in spite of having agitation for 1.5 years almost, we still produced food and we fed our people. Today, nobody in the world has been able to vaccinate an entire nation of so many people. We have vaccinated 100 crore people. This is more than the population of many countries put together. Who's done this? You and I have done it. How did we do this? Because we made a contract with ourselves. We negotiated with ourselves. We have a delivery system. We have a distribution method by which we reached out to every man, woman, and child and got him to a vaccination center and vaccinated him. So do you understand the power of India? And this India wants to reach out to you, the future citizens and the future leaders of the country, wants to reach out to you and say, we are negotiating with you. What will you give me in return? I will give you a future. I will give you opportunity. What is it that you're going to give me in return? And that is what you have to think. Many of you will work in multinationals. Many of you will work in corporations which are Indian. Many of you will have your own enterprises. But remember, you have to live up to your part of the negotiation. This country is giving you opportunity. We, the people who are going to now, who have retired, who giving the country to you young people, we demand something from you. We demand commitment. We demand diligence. We demand hard work. And we demand full loyalty. Dubeji? Loyalty. Loyalty to the country. Loyalty to the nation. Loyalty to the people of this nation who will one day, very, very soon in your own lifetimes, be not the first, because America is far ahead, but at least the second most economically developed country in the world. We will try to make dents into America, but America is already very, very powerful. Reaching there will take time. So what is it that you're not taught in class? You're not taught in class how to tie your shoelace. Who teaches you that? Papa taught me how to tie my shoelace. Do you know how to teach somebody to tie a shoelace? They show it. But if I asked you over the phone, hey, I bought a new pair of shoes, I don't know how to tie my shoelace. Please tell me how. Can you instruct me over the phone how to tie a shoelace? You cannot. That is called poor communication, where only non-verbal teaching aids can help. Through words, you can't teach anybody how to tie a shoelace. Try it. Try writing a page, an essay on how to tie a shoelace. You'll find it extremely difficult. Because you'll tell me, take the two ends are called aglets, by the way. Take the two ends of the shoelace and pull and then cross. And then you do this. And then say loop, then you do this. At the end of the day, you will be writhing on the floor, all tied up in knots, except the shoelace. This is communication. So there are so many things which are not taught in school, which you learn through example, you learn from your parents, you learn from your peer, you learn from your teachers, but without being taught. All right, so let me share with you a few things that have happened in my life across various industries that I have worked in, and the kind of activities that I have done, which have been very successful. There was a time where I had a certain task, job for marketing semiconductor devices. Right? Now, we reached a situation where I used to get OEM orders, but the retail was not picking up. You understand the retail? The market where you can go and buy components, that was not picking up. Why? Because competition was very strong. And I had introduced a new product. I didn't know what's the strategy to follow. You cut price, the competition cuts price. You do advertising, the competition does advertising. So everything that you do, the competition does, and he does it better because he is much bigger. So what do I do? Chota technique. I hired 10 boys and girls like you and told them to go to the retail market and ask for my brand of the device. And they went. No store was holding it because they thought it won't sell. But after these 10 boys and girls went, and they went for 4 or 5 times, I started getting orders. बहुत डिमांड है सर, बहुत डिमांड है सर, बच्चे मांग रहे हैं, लोग मांग रहे हैं, बहुत अच्छे. This is not taught in class. Of course, this is not the most ethical thing to do, but it's a tactical thing to do. All right? You create your demand. This has been done earlier by many people. It has successfully done. I'll give you another story. I'm sure you've heard of this. But at the cost of being repetitive, you have to hear it all over again. There is a company called Quality. What does Quality sell? Ice cream. Wonderful. And Quality is a very old American organization. They started way back, 100 years. When they started, ice cream was a novelty. Before that, people used to make ice cream in their homes. That wooden little cask and all that kind of stuff. What happened when they started to manufacture? They went around distributing it at cinema halls, outside parks. And what would people do? A couple would come by, pick up 2 cups of ice cream and walk away. And wherever they finished the ice cream, they would throw the container. The municipality of that city started to impose fines, just like Indore is doing now. So when they put in fines, what happened? Quality started suffering losses. If you gained $1 in selling an ice cream, you paid $5 as fine for the littering. So they had a meeting. And they had a meeting where the managing director of the company called in all his staff, including those who were not very senior people, supervisors and everybody else, and said, this is a problem, what do we do? Most people said, close down this ice cream factory. It doesn't work. We're spending more money than we are earning. Because that is what they were taught in class. That if there is a loss-making unit, shut it. If you can't repair it, shut it. One old man who nobody used to listen to. He said, "May I say something?" So the managing director said, "Yes, of course you may say something." So he said, "Why don't we make a container which can be eaten away?" Everybody laughed and almost threw him out of the conference, except the managing director. He called him back. They discussed, and that was the birth of the cone in the softy ice cream. So ideas can come outside the class, and ideas are not taught. Ideas are your own. You have to come out with them. That is the future that you're going to build. Whoever taught Airbnb that you can have the biggest hotel chain in the world without owning a single room? Whoever taught Ola or Uber that you can have the biggest fleet of cars, taxis, without owning a single vehicle? They did it. Today, all of you are using it because it's an idea. And this was not taught. This was not taught in class. Whichever MBA program they attended, whether it was Bini Bansal or it was somebody else, Mark Zuckerberg, nobody was taught this. Facebook. Do you know what is Facebook today? Facebook governs your lives. It decides what you're doing. Instagram, all these things, where did they come from? They came from an idea which was not taught in class. They came from self-understanding. So, I have given you some amount of food for thought, and I would like all of you to mull over this. And in the next few minutes, if you have any questions that have arisen in your mind, please share, and I'll try and resolve that little crisis in your mind. All right? Now the stage is all yours. All right, so let me check on Arna.
My question to you was, how could we come out of the creativity block that we have in our minds because of all the...
Brilliant question. And all of you first year people over here would not really understand this at this point, but 1 year later you will get to very, very clear understanding of this question. This question that Arna has asked, how do we get past the creativity block? I will digress a bit. Your country, my country, was ruled by foreign dominion for close to 2,000 years. We've had only some 75 years of independent India. And these 2,000 years, we were like slaves. Well, there were periods in between which were not really slavery. But believe me, what does a slave do? The slave only exists. The slave just wants to see the next morning. The slave has no room for creativity or imagination. And this went down genetically into our system. And that is why all of you today, and including me, we were born in free India. Those who are not shackled by the foreign dominion of some other nation, of some other people. And we can think of how to be creative. And that is why you have the Bini Bansals, you have the Ritesh Agarwals, you have the various people who are making waves in the world. All that you need to do is express yourself. Ideas are not anybody's slaves. Ideas are there in everybody's mind. Just open out and express them. And once you start expressing ideas, you'll realize you'll get more and more ideas. So we have been taught, when I was a child, we were taught to keep shut. We were taught, "Bade bol rahe hain to bolo mat." We were taught all sorts of things which are to suppress us. And that was done because of the genetic code that came down from the last 2000 years. I'm happy to note that you people, your generation, is breaking that mold, is coming out of that shell, and is expressing yourselves in all forms of creativity. Once Michelangelo was asked that here is this Pieta that you created, how did you do it? How difficult was it? What did he say? He said the statue was already there in the stone. I only removed the waste. I just scraped the waste away. The statue, the Pieta was already there. It was there inside the stone. That is what you people are. You have the creativity. It is our duty to scrape the waste. All right?